Hello everyone, welcome to today's live 10-minute 2-Tip Tuesday. I'm going to be joining you here live every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. As always, I am Amelia. I'm an occupational therapist and I am with Higher Standards Caregiver Training. So what is 10-minute 2-Tip Tuesday? If you have never seen it before, maybe you've never seen it live before, then this is the deal. So every Tuesday for 10 minutes, I'm going to give you 2 super valuable tips. The first one is specifically for caregivers, and the second is always going to be for caregiving organizations. This informational always is for, did I say this informational? It's live, just forgive me. This information is for educational purposes only. So if anything that I say reminds you of someone you know, someone you work with, maybe even yourself, and it makes you think that that person might need to get help from a licensed healthcare provider, then please make sure that that person gets the right help from the right provider, as this is truly for educational purposes only. Okay, so today's first tip for caregivers, as always, this is a really basic, super foundational tip all about how to make transfers easier. If you're unfamiliar with the term transfer, so it's basically just kind of a one-word way of describing how we get a person from one surface to another surface. And that could mean that person getting themselves from one surface to another surface, or it could mean how we as caregivers physically provide assistance to get someone from one surface to another. And a lot of times when transfers go poorly, when things go wrong, when people get hurt, it's because some of the most basic kind of functional, foundational principles of how to set up a safe transfer are just missing for whatever reason. Whether it's maybe the caregiver was never properly taught how to do that transfer, perhaps they're in a rush and forgot to check. There are a million different reasons. But a lot of times when transfers go poorly, it's because some of this basic stuff just gets missed. So I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know if you can actually see, but the kitty decided to, did you want to be my transfer subject? You're pretty easy. You're pretty easy. I think he's a little bit too little to do a good demonstration with. Okay, go on, buddy. So I wanted to set this up, though, today so that I could actually sort of really do a demonstration for you to make it clear why this principle is so important. And so I will get to the tip, actually. So what is this tip? The tip is that when we are planning to perform a transfer, we want to make sure that the 2 surfaces that we are going to, so the surface we're going from and the surface that we're going to, are as close as possible. And if possible, we want them to be touching. So why do we want that? Well, there are a couple of really good reasons. The first is that, so you notice here I have this set up as if I'm going to go from a wheelchair to this bedside commode. Oh goodness, hello. Yes, you're so helpful normally, but you're not very helpful right now. So the main reason from the perspective of the person who is being transferred, or the person who is actually moving from one surface to another, is that we want these surfaces to be as close as possible, so there's less distance to travel and less room to fall. You can see here in this relatively large space, this is a whole area where during the course of that transfer, as I'm moving through the space, it's just a place where I could literally fall and end up on the floor. So whenever possible, we want to minimize that. We want to make that as non-existent as possible. The other side of the equation, of course, is the person who is actually assisting with the transfer. If you're a caregiver and you're helping someone transfer, then this is really important to you because the closer these 2 surfaces are together, the shorter the distance that you have to physically assist someone. And that means that translates into less lifting, which is really important for our own health as caregivers if we're assisting with transfers. So you can see here in this, like I would have to transport this person all the way across this big space onto the seat of the commode. Now, by simply taking these surfaces and getting them as close as possible, and again, when I say as close as possible, I really mean touching if possible. What I've done here is I have closed this space. So there's literally no space for the person who is being transferred to fall into, and it's significantly shortened the distance that now, if I'm helping someone transfer, that I have actually had to physically move someone's body. So I've decreased the amount of lifting that I have to do. I've decreased the risk of falls by making it so there's no space for someone to fall into. And actually a third little benefit, pardon me, Kitty, is that now this commode is in a much better reaching distance for the person who is being transferred, and that's going to help them participate a little bit more if they're able to do so safely. So lots of great reasons to make sure that the two transfer surfaces are as close as possible, and when I mean close, I mean touching if possible. You notice I said that a lot, and that is because over the course of my career, teaching other occupational therapists at the graduate level, teaching nurses, teaching, of course, caregivers in the hospital or rehab environment, and teaching people themselves to transfer themselves in those environments. I noticed that if I could say close, and close means lots of different things to different people. For some people, that might feel close. For some people, this might feel close. And so I learned really quickly that I needed to be super specific and say, if possible, we want these things to be touching, if we can make that safely done. Okay, so that is tip 1 for today for caregivers. Tip number 2 for caregiving organizations, as always, this is really something that we can think about as applied to any kind of business process. And it's important to think about processes in business, right? Because the way that we make sure things are done the right way every time, the way that we have an ability to standardize the way things are done, the way that we make sure things go smoothly and take less time, is through implementing processes, right? Doing things the same way every single time. And when we're talking about caregiving organizations, this is really, really important because, of course, the most important thing about any caregiving organization is the quality of the care that organization is able to provide. And when we're trying to provide quality care, that has to come from a process that builds that quality. And what is that if not a training process? So it's not something that we can, we can't always hire caregivers with the exact right skill set that we need to serve every single client. That's impossible even in the best of times. It's certainly impossible now. If you're a member of a caregiving organization, you know that so well right now. It's just really, really difficult to do. So what we really need to do, even in the best of times, but certainly now, is to have an ongoing, consistent, regular, standardized process that we follow with training the same things, doing it consistently, reiterating that process over and over and over again so that we can make sure that the care quality that we're providing is based on all the same standards. It's creating a system of quality that is just cyclical, that keeps building on itself, keeps getting better and better and better. Because when we implement processes, when we do things the same way every single time, it allows us to measure those processes, figure out what's working and what's not, and it allows us to create that standardized way of doing things. Now, when we're talking about providing caregiver training and a training process in a caregiving organization, listen, I actually get that is not that easy to do. And in fact, one of the reasons that people have struggled with it for so long is because it's really, really challenging. And that's why Higher Standards Caregiver Training exists. It is literally because I have built out these processes to put directly into caregiving organizations so that you can start reaping the benefits of them right away. And it's not just it's not just about giving a one-time training, getting a one-time document. It's really about having that ongoing, continuous care quality improvement program. And that's what we do at Higher Standards Caregiver Training. If you have questions about that, please feel free to reach out. If you have questions about the process in your own organization, you want to chat about that, pick my brain, I'd be happy to do that. Feel free to just reach out, send me a message, however it works for you. All right, so that's it for today's live 10-minute 2-Tip Tuesday. I will be back next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, live here for you. Until then, though, sorry, one more thing. I've got some cool stuff coming up. I've got some live events coming up that are going to be both for caregiving organizations as well as for individual and family caregivers. So please make sure that you are keeping an eye out for those. I'm going to release more details as I'm able to about those events. Super excited to bring them to you. So make sure that you're tuning in to get those events. Make sure that you are following me, following the page, subscribing to the channel in order to make sure that you're getting all those updates. And of course, you never know when Kitty's going to drop in. Or the dog. I know you haven't seen the dog a lot lately, but I promise she still exists. She just always likes to be in and out, and it's too cold to have the door open right now. Okay, anyway, that said, that's it for me today, for today's 10-minute 2-Tip Tuesday. Thank you for joining me live. If you are watching the recording, then hopefully you can join me live next week. And until then, y'all, take care. Bye, guys.